and that I had control over. And it really
Right.
felt like with the menopause, or that's what I'm tying it to, or age, that was slipping away.
Yeah. Well, I recently saw a study that said that the results with the GLP-1 medications are better in menopausal women who take estrogen as well. And I'm not exactly sure where in the body that effect transpires, whether they're two separate things or could somehow estrogen improve the effects or reduce the side effects. Hey there, this is Dr. Gary Pepper, and this is our video podcast, Metabolism 123. And if you're listening on audio, it's Dr. P. Really. Our show today is an interview with Kelly, who's taking one of the latest GLP-1 drugs. And she has a very fascinating story to tell us. And if you've been watching our series, you've already heard from Ellen and Susie, who've also had a diverse experience. I do want to mention that on our metabolism.com website, we just put up a new blog about how to recognize fake bootleg products that are coming into the GLP-1 marketplace. You need to know how to recognize a fake product because of the high health risks that you might encounter if you get one of these. So we're going to get right into it with Kelly, and thanks again for watching. Hi there, this is Dr. Gary Pepper. This is Metabolism 123, and we're going to be talking to Kelly about her experience with the miraculous weight loss medications, the GLP-1 medications. And from what I understand, Kelly has had an interesting experience, and I think we could all learn a lot from how things have transpired with her. So how you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Sure. You're really helping us out by helping to take away some of the mystery of this whole field of medication, and maybe we can bring some reality to the story. So let's just start at the beginning. I mean, have you done other weight loss programs before?
This was my first introduction to any kind of weight loss medicine. I've always been pretty healthy as far as exercise and diet. Mm-hmm. And then once I hit menopause, the weight just consistently kept coming, and there was really nothing that I could find to combat that. Everything that I had tried before was not working. My doctor basically told me, this is menopause. Don't worry about it. My cholesterol was going up along with the weight. I'm about 5'5", and I think my normal weight was like 130. So for my frame, I was never super, super thin, just a healthy weight, but I was, approaching 150. And it was just miserable.
It wasn't working. Yeah.
Nothing was working.
What when you say nothing, what kind of things were you trying?
The exercise, the diet, the things that had worked and been effective in the past. And I felt like as the weight gradually crept up, it's almost like part of me just gave up. So then the diet and the exercise weren't as consistent, or I might have still been exercising, but it was, the diet, I just felt like hopeless at that point.
Yeah. Were you on any special diet, keto diet or paleo diet or intermittent fasting? Did you try any of those?
My husband had gotten me into Weight Watchers, and I just wasn't good at counting points or calories. It just wasn't my thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't do anything like too drastic either way. It was watching the carbs, trying to eat lean meats, vegetables, limit the processed foods. So nothing really identified as like a diet, but just mindful eating is what I would say.
Okay. And so when did you decide you wanted to try one of the GLP?
Well, I was at my doctor for my yearly last year, and I had asked him because this was starting to, make headlines, and
Hmm.
he said no, that I was not a candidate for it. I didn't have, aside from the cholesterol, really any other underlying causes, and that he really wasn't that worried about my weight. And so a few months later, I got an email from his office saying they were going to start to offer the
Oh,
Ozempic,
mhm.
like drugs, or the semiglutides. And so
Right.
that's when I got involved with that.
I see. And so, how long did it take, from the time you got the okay from your doctor to the time you were able to get the medication? Was there like a lag because of shortages or anything like that?
No, I would say it was a compounded medication. So
Oh,
maybe a few days, and then I had
oh,
it.
okay.
I was thrilled.
Oh, great. So you got started, and then what?
So I started on the lowest dosage.
Hmm.
I have had some sensitivities to medications, and I wasn't really thrilled that I was putting this into my body, but I was also desperate at this point.
Sure. Hmm.
Um, and I started taking it um, through injection once a week. Uh,
Uh-huh.
First couple weeks, I had no results, and
Hmm.
then the results started coming, and the results were amazing. I don't
Okay.
really. I would say I started it in February, and I'm down 20 pounds. I don't want to lose any more weight. So the results were great. I did have a lot of side effects, though, that were not so great.
Can you tell us a little bit about the side effects?
Probably for the first 8 weeks, I felt like I had a virus or the flu. I did not feel well. On and off headaches.
Hmm.
I've never been somebody that would get headaches, very, very occasionally in my lifetime. So that wasn't something
Hmm.
that I had really experienced that would I would have related to the medication. And nausea. I was very nauseous a lot of the
Hmm.
times.
Was this on the low dose, by the way?
On the low dose.
Hmm.
Um, to the point where I was taking something for nausea because
Hmm.
it was extremely uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And then just an overall sense of how I would describe it, when you are coming down with something or you just know you don't feel well, it was kind of an
Right.
overall sense of just not feeling great. Definitely brain fog the first couple weeks. I just felt like I was almost, it was like not living real life. I felt definitely altered.
Did it interfere with your daily activity?
No, I'm pretty good to plug away with whatever's in front of me. So it wasn't anything that there wasn't anything that I had to cancel. There definitely
Hmm.
wouldn't have been anything I would have been planning. Like I wouldn't have planned to meet you for dinner if that wasn't
Right.
something that was on the schedule because I just wasn't
Hmm.
feeling up to it at all.
How about your sleeping? Did it affect sleep?
No, I'm always been a good sleeper, and
All
that's
right.
never been an issue.
How about vomiting? Did you get to that point?
No, I didn't get to vomiting, but I was also taking the nausea medicine occasionally when I felt really, really sick. But I did
Was it was
definitely
it was it
go
a
ahead.
prescription nausea drug like Compazine or something?
It was something like that, yeah, that I had on hand.
Okay.
And so taking that, but definitely got to that point where I felt like if I would have vomited, it wouldn't have surprised me. It was
Yeah.
close.
Just for people who are listening to this for the first time, I guess you know your friend Ellen, who we interviewed before. She had a dramatic episode while she was out to dinner with her husband. But fortunately, it sounds like you never got to that point. Um, so tell us more. How did things go from there? I mean, started to lose the weight. You didn't feel well, and so what then?
Well, it was the not feeling well versus the desperation to lose the weight. So that was the battle to, continue on with this. The first, I would say 2 weeks, I didn't lose anything. So I was getting
Right.
concerned that maybe I was resistant to it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then, sure enough, week after week, it would be like 1 or 2 pounds. So it was very gradual. Uh, and that I would say was so remarkable to me because I was still, it felt like I was still kind of doing the same things,
Hmm.
but the weight is coming off.
Did you notice that the amount of food you were eating was less?
Well, the first 2 weeks, as the weeks continued, the symptoms, the side effects, or however you would want to call them, got less and less. But
Okay.
the first couple of weeks, it would be almost like, oh, I have to eat. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I haven't had anything.
Hmm.
So I was being mindful to eat. And then now it's really gotten to the level like if we go out, let's say for dinner, um, I just don't eat as much as I used to. It might be half the food, but it doesn't feel like any kind of deprivation at all.
Were you bothered by cravings uh, before you started? Did you have that, like the munchies, and you needed to have potato chips and things like that?
I think that that was one of the things with the menopausal issues was I would crave super salty snacks and I would crave super
Hmm.
sweet snacks. And that completely is gone.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's a common uh, report by people that the cravings, and they call it food noise, not thinking
Mhm.
about food all the time. So, did you experience any of that kind of thing as well, where your preoccupation with certain foods disappeared?
Absolutely. I was a late night snacker, kind of the
Hmm.
comfort food
Right.
type person, around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And that has pretty much completely resolved itself.
Hmm. So, you're still taking the same dose now, and
I'm still taking the same dose. I'm at my goal weight, so I'm going back and forth. I was going to talk to my doctor because I've heard that some people, instead of doing it weekly, might do it every other week to kind of keep the maintenance of
right.
it. My doctor did tell me when I before they started offering it, when he declined it, that he said, "I just want you to know, once people go off this medication, they gain all the weight back right away." And so this for people that want to stay at a certain weight is a lifelong commitment. What I am hoping is that now that I've reached this goal weight, that I can be very mindful about what's going in and the
Mhm.
exercise, and I'll be able to maintain it. But I am a little bit nervous because he did, give me that information.
After a long time of not losing weight and trying all different things, it's very discouraging. And once you start finding that you are losing weight, the success for a lot of people is so invigorating. Do you feel that just the success itself had an impact on your activities or your lifestyle or anything like that?
I just feel so much better being able to wear clothes comfortably, wear things
Hmm.
that I couldn't wear before, or for a really long time. I just mentally I feel better, and
Hmm.
I don't know if that's just a psychological thing, uh, but it was really not just physically heavy, but it was there was a point where I just felt super hopeless about that because I've always been
Right.
active, I've always been fit, and I always felt like that was something that I had control over. And it really
Right.
felt like with the menopause, or that's what I'm tying it to, or age, that was slipping away.
Yeah. Well, I recently saw a study that said that the results with the GLP-1 medications are better in menopausal women who take estrogen as well. And I'm not exactly sure where in the body that effect transpires, whether they're two separate things or could somehow estrogen improve the effects or reduce the side effects of the GLP-1. I don't know. But I was interested to see because, it's a very common complaint that when you hit menopause, the body changes and it's not always a good thing. And it can have a ripple effect on not only weight, but your mood and, your just general self-esteem can be affected. So it's really hard to separate, but it's a very interesting new area for, investigation and for people to think about. Now, you mentioned that you might transition to a every other week thing to help you taper, let's say, from using the dependency on GLP-1. How serious are you about that? Are you planning on doing it, or are you still just considering that?
Well, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm a little bit nervous to do it because now I've had all this progress and I still have what my doctor said in the back of my mind, that people just gain the weight right back. So um, I do, it's not lost on me that this is a new medication. And I already see the lawyers on TV, if you're
Oh, yeah,
having
right.
gastric paralysis. So, you know,
Right.
due to the fact that it's such a new medication, I don't think I really need to be on it, especially if I'm at my goal weight, maybe just
Right.
monitoring that carefully. And to follow up what you said before, I am doing the hormone replacement that I'm starting to wean
Oh,
myself off. So I am on the estrogen as well, just FYI.
oh, that's important. So when did you start the estrogen?
I'm 55, 56. I just turned 56. I started at around 50, I would say. And I
Oh,
feel like now
really?
I'm at the point where I've halved it and I'm just going to quarter it and see if I can wean myself off it. I'm not having the severe menopausal effects that I was having before.
Sort of to go off on a tangent here, you had mentioned that you were kind of getting affected by menopause in terms of your motivation and your outlook. Did the estrogen help at all?
One of my biggest, I would say, side effects from menopause was fatigue
Yeah,
and hot flashes, severe hot flashes. The estrogen completely rid me of the hot flashes. I don't know if there were any other results that I feel like, wow, I'm so glad I took that because
I
it
see.
helped me here. But for the hot flashes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the hot flashes can be pretty disruptive to your daily activity and sleep, particularly. Did you have any problems at that time with sleep
That was pretty.
interruption?
That was pretty much the worst part of it. Is I would be sleeping and then I would just be completely covered in sweat, and it was not only me that's experiencing this. My husband, the
Yeah.
sheets would be wet.
Mhm.
It was really disruptive.
It was not good. Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, it sounds like the estrogen really did help, but how much did it help with the weight loss and the GLP-1? Like I was saying before, studies are showing that there may be some synergism. They may help each other in some way, but that's still to be decided. So, would you say that there's a chance that you might be a little psychologically dependent on the GLP-1 now? Like you're afraid to go off of it. Your confidence in your ability to stick to the lower caloric intake diet. Do you feel like maybe that somehow psychologically you're, you know, kind of developed a dependence?
I don't know if I would say it's a dependence, because I feel like if it was a dependence, I wouldn't be considering going off of it. I think
I see.
it's a mindfulness. In the back of my mind, though, it's like, yeah, I'll go off it for 2 months and
Hmm.
I will still have some here if I need. So perhaps on some level, I'd like, I guess I don't understand. And maybe my body has changed since I don't feel like I need the estrogen as much anymore to manage
Hmm.
it. I don't really know how the would impact that, 5 years later.
Right.
So I
Well,
don't know.
typically, after a number of years, even without estrogen, it's often reported that those symptoms diminish a lot. So it'll be interesting for you to find out, where things stand. So,
Is that including, oh, excuse me, is that including the weight gain?
um, that I couldn't say,
Okay.
but the symptoms of certainly the hot flashes and moodiness and things like that tend to wane. I mean, I'm not an OB/GYN, but from patients that I've treated over the years and what the literature says. But everybody's different, obviously, and you'll have to work with your own doctor and see how that works out. Do you have any other like concerns in your mind about where to go from here?
I don't think so. I'm at the point now where I don't want to lose any more weight. It's almost a couple pounds beneath where my goal was. So I foresee myself getting off of it a little reluctantly, and then being mindful. And
Right.
always in the back of my mind, it is a new medication. And if it did work like a miracle as far as getting that weight off, especially when I was told by my doctor, this is probably the way it's going to be. And I'm also mindful that, there have been drugs on the market that have been approved that have had catastrophic effects on people, and we won't know
Yeah.
that for a really long time. So
Yes. Right.
I
How
foresee
do you feel
myself.
about how do you feel about teenagers using this stuff? It's now been approved for teenagers. Do you think that that's kind of an unhealthy thing for somebody that young to start using these kinds of medications?
Oh,
I mean,
it's
you could pass on that one if you want.
no, I have a 16-year-old daughter. I think it's important that children learn how to manage their weight without assistance or a crutch of some kind. I guess that would depend on if that person is the healthiest eater and exercising and has
Right.
some. I mean, I've bounced around in my head too. The doctor said, it was starting to suggest cholesterol medication for me. And now I won't need to do that
Great.
because my
Mm-hmm.
cholesterol has gone down. So I guess
Terrific.
with the teenagers, if there's other conditions that can't be controlled, but I don't really believe in any kind of plastic surgery, any kind of drastic surgeries, unless it's like a medical necessity
Right.
or like anything aesthetic. I think that's something that you should be an adult to decide.
Sure. Well, being the mom of a 16-year-old, I guess you know how difficult convincing them of doing the healthy thing as opposed to the easy thing it might be. Personally, I worry about what happens to the people in that age group if they do get started, and do they lose their confidence and the ability to do it without more naturally. And that's my one of my big concerns is, are people not learning how to do it on their own and becoming dependent, for who knows how long, but particularly if you're starting it, in your teenage years. So I think it's going to be a challenge for parents to see. I mean, kids, they vape and they do all kinds of crazy stuff. So what's going to keep them from grabbing, mom's Ozempic pen? I don't know.
Well, and I think it's also, and I've spoken to some friends about this too that are on it, where I've said like, "Hey, you don't, you've lost way too much weight." Even as
Yeah.
adults, how much is too much? And as a
Yeah.
child in high school that's competing against, who knows what,
Right. Hmm.
where is, I think it's important to set a limit and say, well, once I get here,
Yeah.
I'm done, because I've seen people that are just so ridiculously thin that
Right.
it, it's not a good thing either.
Have you noticed, by the way, before we end now, that you might have lost some muscle? I mean, that's one of the undesirable side effects of the weight loss is some people lose muscle instead of fat or is in addition, but that it can lead to, general weakness in certain muscles and the face, the facial muscles and the skin tends to droop. Have you noticed any of that?
I will say, since I am pretty good to hit the gym 4 or 5 times a week, on my body, the muscles, that seems fine. But now
Mm-hmm.
that you mention it too, I do feel like I'm noticing sagging that I don't know, just I've been attributing to age, but it's just something that's new on my face that
Yeah.
is noticeable.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard about the Ozempic face thing with the celebrities and seen pictures. But like so many of the other things about these medication, we just don't know. If you do lose muscle, can it come right back? Just like the weight might come back. Will the muscle come back? I don't see any reliable information yet, but it's something to think about.
Yeah, that's
So
really, really good information.
yeah. So it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad we had a chance to talk. And I know that people who are watching this must have gotten a lot out of it because so many people have questions and that no one really has all the answers. And so we have to learn from each other and one by one, everybody's experience is important. So good luck. And
Yeah, thank you for doing this.
yeah, I mean, it's my pleasure. And maybe if you do get into the tapering aspect of this in a couple of months, we might check in with you again and see how that's working out.
Okay, absolutely. And that'll
All
motivate
right.
me maybe to go in that direction anyway. So
Yeah.
I will keep you posted.
All right, Kelly. Very good. Thanks for speaking with us, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Take care. Okay. Well, I hope you got a lot out of our interview with Kelly. And we hope to continue in our series on the GLP-1 drugs because of how widespread their use has become, and topics like you just heard about whether teenagers should be using such products and what kinds of side effects you might encounter and how you might want to conduct yourself if you are already on something like Ozempic or Wegovy in terms of maybe tapering the drug and transitioning to diet and exercise or some other less medication-based approach to weight loss. So don't forget to put a like or subscribe on our channel. It's the only way that a small independent health-related news source can survive. And hope to see you soon. Thanks again. The contents of this podcast are for educational purposes only. And if you really have some concerns about your health or medical issues, please consult with your own healthcare provider.